Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this second weekly Wellbeing Webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm very pleased to welcome Nazia, who's going to talk us through this afternoon's activities. And Nazia is the Healthy Lifestyles Facilitator from Barking and Dagenham Council. So welcome and thank you for being with us this afternoon. If you have any questions at all throughout the session, please just post them in the chat box. If you're watching this on catch up on YouTube and you come up with a question, please just email me and we can make sure we get that answered for you. I'm just going to share my screen now for this afternoon's presentation. Okay. Okay, so here we are, and over to you, Nazia. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. So, hi everyone. My name's Nazia. Thank you for having me on today. It's a pleasure. So today we'll be talking about portion sizes and whole grains. That'll be our topic for today. Next slide, please, Claire. Our learning objectives for today will be exploring the benefits of each food group. We'll be looking at the differences between portions and servings and how to reduce serving sizes. We will be understanding serving sizes. We'll be looking at whole grains and we'll be looking at a little bit of label reading as well. That's our learning objectives for today. And so the benefits of each food group. Food groups are grouped together because they provide similar amounts of the key nutrients of that food group. So it's also important that we enjoy a variety of foods within each of the 5 food groups because different food groups vary in the amount of key nutrients they provide. So the human body needs food for energy, to keep warm, for growth and repair. So we need many nutrients on a daily basis in order to stay healthy. The three main food groups are carbohydrates, protein and fats. So a good balanced diet of fresh food helps us to have a healthy diet and to stay healthy and fit. Next slide, thank you. So this is just the Eat Well guide. I'm sure you've seen it before. So as you can see, within this guide, we've got our vegetables, our carbs, we've got protein at the bottom, we've got our dairy, and that tiny little purple sliver, that's our oils and spreads. And as you can see on the outside of the food group, it's got the crisps, the chocolates, and any snacks that we have that's high in sugar, salt or fat. And that sits outside of the food group because it doesn't have any nutritional value to it whatsoever, and we don't need it in our diets. And also in the top right hand corner, you can see we have 6 to 8 glasses of water as well. Next slide, please. So from the first one from the Eat Well guide, we've got our vegetables and fruits. So vegetables should make up a large part of our daily food intake and should be encouraged at every meal, including snack times. They provide vitamins, minerals, dietary fiber to help keep our bodies healthy. Vitamins of different colors gives your body a wide range of valuable nutrients like fiber, folate, potassium, vitamin A and vitamin C. And fruits provide us with vitamins, minerals and as fiber as well. That helps keep our bodies stay healthy. Next slide, please. Yeah, we've got protein. So protein functions as the building blocks for our bones, muscles, cartilage, skin, and blood. They are also the building blocks for the enzymes, hormones, and vitamins in our bodies. So our bodies use the protein to make special chemicals in our systems, including adrenaline. So protein also builds, maintains, and repairs the tissues in our bodies, muscles, and organs. And they are primarily made up of protein. That's why that's important. And protein also includes our lean meats, our poultry, fish, eggs, tofu, nuts, and beans. They're all sources of our protein. Next up, we've got carbohydrates. So this is our grains that we have. especially whole grains. These provide us with numerous health benefits. The fiber in whole grains helps to provide a feeling of fullness without as many calories. So eating whole grains as a part of a healthy diet may help reduce the risk of some diseases and also reduce your cholesterol levels. It reduces your risk of heart disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes, as well as helps with weight loss and weight management. It also prevents constipation if you have whole grain foods instead of the white foods. Next up, we've got dairy. So dairy, the foods in this group are excellent source of calcium, which is essential for strong bones, strong and healthy bones. And not many other foods in our diet contains as much calcium as these foods. So this would include things like milk, cheese, and yogurt. This is our source of dairy. So the next thing we'll be looking at is me-sized meals. So me-sized meals is all about portion control and making sure your children eat the right amount of food for their size and age. So if they eat more than their body needs, it converts to stored fat, which later in life can lead to diseases such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. So it's better to serve your children a smaller portion to start with and let them ask for more if they're still hungry than giving them the same portions as you would give a grown-up and expect them to eat it all. Not only does this mean your children are getting the right amount of food, it will mean less food waste too. So the weekly shop budget should go a bit further as well.
I've just got a couple of questions actually, Nazia, so perhaps we can answer them now. I'll just bring them up in the chat. So we had a question which you've sort of answered, but to have a balanced diet, do you need to have a little bit of everything?
Yes, so to have a balanced diet, so from the Eat Well guide, which we saw that plate, it had all the different food groups in it. You'd need to have something from all of those food groups to have a balanced diet.
And what about if you have too much of something, even if it's good for you?
Yeah.
Is it ever bad for your health to have too much?
Well, it depends which one it is. So if it's things like vegetables, you can never have too many vegetables. You can't go wrong with that. But with the fruit, you have to be a bit careful because it has natural occurring sugars as well with it. So that could lead to you having too much sugar in your system. Although it's a healthier way of it, but it still is high in sugar fruits. So you have to be a bit careful with that one. And with meat and with protein and carbohydrates, although even if you have whole grains, it's still, you shouldn't have too much of it. You should have it as a balanced diet.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
So keep your questions coming in, but for now we can just carry on.
Yeah, okay. So what do we think the main reasons are for why people are putting on weight? There's loads of reasons, but we've come down to 3 of the main reasons is, we're eating bigger portions of food. So foods come in bigger packets as well. And we eat out of larger plates and bowls. So a lot of our food is coming in bigger sizes. So that's another reason why. There's also things like boredom and maybe, because of the lockdown, there's loads of different factors to why people are eating more. That's the thing to remember as well. There are loads of different reasons. So eating too much can lead to a few nasty surprises happening in our bodies, which can affect us later in life. So if we eat too much, our tummies can expand and that will become very uncomfortable for us. Carrying around more fat than our body needs makes it harder for our hearts to cope. It has to work harder, and this can make us feel more tired and prone to heart disease when we're older. So if you imagine carrying around like a stack of potatoes with you constantly, that's how it feels with the extra fat that our body stores from the food that we eat, the extra food. And if we don't exercise as well, that just gets stored to fat and we're just carrying that around with us. And if we eat too much sugar, the extra energy it provides can be stored in our bodies as fat as well. And this increases our risk of getting type 2 diabetes. So those are a couple of things that can happen to our bodies if we eat too much of the wrong kinds of food. Just gets stored as fat in our system. There is a difference between a portion size and a serving size. So a portion size is an average helping of food that you may have every day for your meal. For example, it's just the amount of pasta you'd put on your plate. Whereas serving size, for example, is a standardized unit of measurement. So for example, 1 cup of pasta. That's the difference between a portion size and a serving size. The daily recommended amount of servings is different for boys and girls, and it's different for children and adults. So if you look on the screen, if you can see, so for fruit and vegetables, for boys and girls, it is up to 5 or more. For carbohydrates, for a girl, it's 4 to 5, whereas for a boy, it's 5 to 6. Protein, we've got 2 to 3 for boys and girls. Dairy, we've got 3 for boys and girls. And healthy fats, we've got 2 for boys and girls as well. That's the different serving sizes that children can have every day for the different food groups. And this is just an example of those serving sizes. So an apple, for example, equals to 1 serving of fruit and vegetables. 1 medium egg is equal to 1 serving of protein. And lean cuts of meat, which is beef, chicken, or pork, which is a matchbox size, is 1 serving. And 1 cup of skimmed or semi-skimmed milk is equal to 1 serving. That's just a couple of examples of serving sizes.
So Nazia, when you say matchbox size, I know these come in different sizes and we've got quite a big box of matches at home. Do you mean the big ones that you get or the little ones that sort of fit into your pocket?
Okay, so it's the little ones that fit into our pockets.
Okay.
There's a little matchbox size.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. But yeah, those are just a couple of examples of serving sizes. So it can be tricky to work out how much everybody in the family needs for their size. It seems obvious, but a 5-year-old needs less than a 10-year-old, and a 10-year-old needs less than an adult. And as our children grow at different rates, there's no solid rule for each group that says give them this much or give them that much. So the best thing to do is to look at your fist and then look at your child's fist and compare the two of them and see how much smaller their fist size is compared to yours. So when you're working out how much to give them, bear in mind that their tummies are also this much smaller too. It can help children to understand by maybe drawing your hands and their hands and looking at the different sizes. That's a little activity you could try doing at home. So it can be difficult to work out expanding food such as like pasta or rice. So try to use something to measure it out with first. So a very rough guide is about a handful of uncooked pasta for a child and 2 handfuls for an adult. And this is each. So if you can find out an amount that works for your family, you can figure it out by measuring it with a particular cup or a mug, and then you'll be able to make exactly the same amount every single time. It's about measuring. So on the screen, you can see like that's a child's hand, and there's different examples of a closed fist would be 1 cup, and if it was their palm size would be, I think, about a 1/4 cup, and that you can use that as a rough guide as well. So when we're talking about the thumb, that will be about 2 tablespoons. If you're talking about butter or maybe like a peanut butter spread, you can measure it in that way as well. So next slide, please. Thank you. And there are a few simple things that you can do to help your children eat the right amount for their age and size. And there's such little changes that they should fit right into your existing routine. So remember that children's tummies are smaller than adults, so they need less food to make them feel full. So don't fall into the trap of serving them up the same plateful as everyone else in the family. Also, you can, by finding and buying some children-sized plates and bowls, that helps as well. So plates and bowls are made bigger than ever now. So of course, when you put a child's portion onto an adult's plate, it doesn't look nearly enough. But when you start serving their meals on proper sized plates, it will be much easier to tell if they've had enough. And thirdly, be careful of pre-packaged portion sizes. Most things come in adult sizes, so you don't need to give a whole portion to a child. For example, you could let them share, or you can keep some back for later. So starting off by giving them less to start off with, and they can ask for seconds. This way you'll have less waste and they won't eat too much. And lastly, don't worry if they don't clean their plates. If they say they're full, this means they're probably full. You know, your kids won't starve. If they're hungry, they'll probably just eat more of whatever you put in front of them. That's what happens when children are hungry. They'll eat whatever. They won't be too fussy. That's the difference between hunger and cravings. So secondly, we're going to be looking at whole grains. So this is a diagram of a whole grain. Whole grain comes from cereal plants like wheat, corn, or rice. Grains are the seeds of these plants, and each grain is made up of 3 parts. So it's made up of the bran, which is the outer layer, the germ, which is inside of it, and the endosperm. And this is the starchy middle layer of the grain, of the seed. So they should be included in all your meals, and they should make up 1/4 of the plate. They can come in 2 forms. They come in refined and unrefined. Next slide, please. So refined grain have been stripped of their outer bran and inner germ during the process, and only left the endosperm, which is things like our white rice, white bread, pasta, and our pastries and cakes that we get in supermarkets. So they've been stripped of their goodness, and that's why they're refined grains. And unrefined grains are where the germ, the bran, and the endosperm are all still present. The bran is an excellent source of fiber. The germ is an excellent source of protein, vitamins, and minerals. And the endosperm supplies most of the carbohydrates. So that's the starchy. Unrefined or whole grains provide far more nutrients than their refined counterparts. Whole grains are rich in antioxidants, which help to protect against heart disease, certain cancers, and diabetes. Studies have also shown that people who eat 3 or more servings of whole grains a day are less likely to suffer from heart disease. And most people get their whole grain from wholemeal bread or whole grain cereals, such as porridge or certain cereals. So by choosing a whole grain variety over a refined grain, you know, you're taking out any added sugar or salt. And examples of whole grain food include brown rice, whole grain bread, brown pasta. These are a couple of examples of it.
Nazia, we've got another question that's just come on the chat box. I think because we were talking about bread, someone wants to know what we should be giving children for a healthy packed lunch.
Okay, so that will be covered. We'll be talking about packed lunches, I think not next week, the week after, just healthy snacks. But if you want to give a healthy packed lunch, you can give them whole grain bread, which is fine, it's not a problem. But just be careful of how much you give them, because 1 bread will be 1 serving size. So just be wary of how much you're giving them, how much bread, and what you're putting in the bread as well is important. Is that okay?
Yes, that's great, thank you. And like you say, we'll cover it in more details in the coming weeks as well.
Yeah, so we'll be covering it under fats, I think. So it's not next week, the week after. Okay, so there's a couple of true and false facts. So these are a couple of true facts about whole grains. So whole grains, they help keep us fuller for longer. They contain fibers, which helps us with our digestion and to go toilet. And they release energy slowly throughout the day, which can reduce snacking on unhealthy snacks. So reasons why they release slow energy, and it's good for us because it keeps us fuller for longer, we snack less. When it releases energy slowly in our systems, that stabilizes our sugar levels. It puts us in a better mood, and it reduces our hunger as well. So a couple of false things are, if a product is labeled brown, e.g. pasta or bread, this isn't the same as whole grain. So be wary when you're buying bread to look for the whole grain option and not the brown option. Because when it says brown, it's just white bread, but they've put a bit of colouring in there. It's best to go for the whole grain. And multigrain is not the same as whole grain or wholemeal. And just because you have wholemeal, whole grain, doesn't mean you can eat as much of it as you like as well. So you have to be careful about how much of that starchy foods that you're having. Okay, so label reading. Nutritional information panel is the information on the back of a packet and is usually shown as a table or a grid and includes information on energy, calories, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. It also provides additional information on saturated fat, sugar, sodium, salt, and fiber. All nutritional information that's provided on the back of the packets comes per 100 grams and sometimes per portion of the food as well. It's very important to check per 100-gram column when comparing food products. Portion sizes can alter from product to product, making it difficult to compare. For example, a serving of cereal may be listed as 30 grams on a box, or 40 grams on another. So it's always best to go for the per 100 grams column. And when you're reading the label, it's important that you look at the fat information on the food label, and that is divided up as well. So when you're looking at it, step 1 is to look at the total fats per 100 grams. If it's less than 5 grams per 100 grams, we're in the green, so that's good to go, and that's a healthy option. The second step you'll be looking at is check the of which sugars per 100 gram. So if the sugar is greater than 15 grams per 100 grams, then it's likely to be in the red food in the traffic light system, and that's an unhealthy option. You want to avoid that. If it's more than 15 grams, we want to put that way. And the third step would be that you check the first 3 list of ingredients. So when you're looking at what that food has in it, the first 3 ingredients is what is highest in. So if it's high in fat, sugar, and salt, you immediately know that that's not a good option, and you can find an alternative which will be better for you. And this is important because when you look at certain foods, it may say that it's got no added sugar, no added fat. And that is correct, but they may add something else in there as well, which is bad for us, just to compensate for the taste of it. That's why reading labels is very important. And also manufacturers are paid a lot of money to make their products look as nice and fancy as they possibly can, just so we pick it up. And that's why reading the label is really important for us to do. And it's a very important tool to have when you're checking foods. And also, I know a lot of us have seen this before on many food products. So this is a traffic light system. For those of us that's in a hurry, we can quickly check it. If it's got all greens, that's a thumbs up, that's a go ahead, that's a healthy option. But when it turns to amber or red, that's when you need to look at the back of it. And it's also important to note that some of the food manufacturers have turned these labels grey now. So it's not as easy to spot it as it would have been before. And that way you would have to check the back of that food just to make sure what's in there and how much sugar or salt it has in there as well. So at the end of each topic, we set SMART goals. And SMART goals is basically just specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time specific. So each of our goals must meet these criteria. So we've got a couple of SMART goals for you this week. On the next slide, please. That SMART goal for this week would be to read labels on 10 foods from your cupboards at home, decide if they meet our guidelines, and to replace the unhealthy foods and drinks with a healthy alternative. And if you're not having whole grains, to try making that whole grain swap. That's your SMART goal for this week for you to try out with your family.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you, Nazia, for all that information. So we've got a couple of minutes left. If anyone does have any questions and you want to put them in the chat box, we've all got a little bit of homework to do this week then, to find some things from our cupboards and to have a look at the food labels on the back. So I will be sending out the presentation on email. You'll be able to refer back to it so that you can look at what a healthy food label looks like, and you can compare that to the foods that you've got in your cupboard. So I'm not seeing any questions. Sorry, Nazia.
No, sorry, I was going to say, Claire, we've got a couple of handouts as well, which you can send out to the families. I can email that over to you with more information on today's topic.
That would be great, thank you, and we can send that out. So I've not seen any questions come. Oh, there is a question. So why should girls eat less carbs than boys?
I was waiting for that question. So girls eat less than boys because boys have a higher, they've got more muscle mass than girls. That's why. And that's why boys have more protein as they get older as well. They will have more carbs and more protein by 1 serving than girls because they have a higher muscle mass. That's why.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Any final questions? I can't see anything coming through, but if you think of anything afterwards, you can always email me and I will be able to pass them on to Nazia and we can get those answers back to you. So I'm Claire. Most of you should know me by now. I've been on these webinars for the last 2 weeks, and I think that's all. So thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you. We will be here next week, even though it's half term. So we will see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Bye.